Hello, and welcome to the Business Advocate Podcast. My name is Russell Carrier. I am your host. I'm the owner of First Choice Business Brokers of East Tennessee in Nashville. And today we have a special guest. We are bringing on another business owner. This business owner has been in business for quite some time in an unusual business. What I mean by that, this is not your typical service business. And I will let her explain. So welcome, Ilke.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Ilke is with Paradise Hills Winery Resort and Spa in Blairsville, Georgia.
Yeah, if anybody knows where that is, but Blue Ridge is more recognizable because of the Blue Ridge Mountains. We're right.
Absolutely. Beautiful area. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been there, go there. There's my one plug of the episode.
Yeah, no, it is. It is beautiful. And it's really more of the natural beauty. You know, it's a Chattahoochee National Forest. So there's, the Appalachian Trail and waterfalls and just, it's really an outdoor enthusiast area because we've got lakes and the Ocoee River to kayak. And so if you like doing stuff outside, this area is, it has tons of options. So it's kind of why we were drawn here to begin with.
So let's talk about that. Why? Number one, let's give people a little bit of your background. So before you were a business owner, what did you do?
I was a certified law enforcement officer. So I was a criminal investigator, a defensive tactics instructor for the Collier County Sheriff's Office. So in Southwest Florida, big change.
Okay, so the Naples area.
Yeah, Naples, that county. So Naples has its own PD, but with the Sheriff's Office, it encompassed the whole county, which is the largest county in Florida and has, very affluent areas, but also very farm, migrant areas. And then part of Miami, because we're right across, Naples is right across Alligator Alley from Miami. So we had a lot of Hispanic and Haitian community pockets. And so it was pretty diverse for Florida.
Very good. So how long were you doing that?
I was at the sheriff's office for about 6 years. And before that, I was in New York City doing private law enforcement.
Okay.
So I've been in law enforcement for about 10 years total when I add it all up.
Excellent. So how do you go from law enforcement to business owner? Was this something that you were thinking about doing, or is it just something that happened?
It's definitely not something that happened. It's I think that on some level, the pieces at the right time, when you're fueled, your ambition, that flame of ambition is high enough, the pieces fall into place and you take the action. But that flame, that what I call like the flame of entrepreneurship, was in me from when I was little. I can remember being in first grade and thinking about what am I going to call my business? And so I had this little flame. And so and we all have the flame of something, right? And then as things happen, either moving away from pain points where you're doing something you don't like, or the system is difficult to work in, like in law enforcement and government, as that flame gets fueled somehow, when it's big enough, you just do it. You don't even actually think about how I'm going to do it. You just do it. Yeah, because we really didn't, when I think back of when we started. Now, I met my husband now while we actually worked together, which is not recommended, in an exclusive team in law enforcement. And then when we started dating, they pulled us, we went to different units. And so that's when I worked in narcotics. And so we started this together. It was just like both our flames were, and different. I think his was not always in all his life. It was more like the next season of his life, but it was at the same time. And we were like let's go, let's do this. Let's, and then the pieces fell into place and we were like, yeah, we're going to do that. And when I think back of the skill set that we had the drive. We weren't afraid of hard work. But we didn't know a whole lot about this specific business. I mean, we were like, how much is sales tax in Georgia? Like we were that naive to start. But sometimes that grit and that push, it'll get you through those parts and you'll learn fast.
Absolutely. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So when that flame was burning and you knew you wanted to start a business, did you know it was going to be a resort style business, or were you open to other types of businesses?
I've been open to lots of different types of businesses because I've been in different industries. So from when I was little, I just knew I wanted to be in business for myself, somehow have control over what happened. I had no idea all the other stuff that comes with it. I just really wanted to. And we even joke when I know it was first grade because I had my best friend and her and I, when we would play together, my dad at the time worked for Data General, which was a huge computer company back in the, when computers were a whole room. So he worked for Data General and her dad worked for Digital, another computer company. And so we would sit down at desks and we didn't even know how to write cursive yet. We were like scribbling and we were CEOs sitting at our desk and our company was Data Digital, very original. I know. And we were so, and my path didn't go anywhere near that because I went into performing arts, but I always, knew, and in that industry. So again, in performing arts, I looked at how can I solve a problem in this industry, in this world? And then I went into private insurance fraud investigations, and I worked for a real small firm and worked in the structure and the building of the business. And when I moved again, I looked for opportunities. Where can I build this? So I didn't know what it was, but when I came to this, what I originally bought was the cabin rent, a few of the vacation rentals. I was like, oh, this could be something great. And with our input, and we could create a really great experience for people. And then, so.
All right. So
we didn't have an exact target, if that answers your question.
Okay. So you end up looking into Georgia.
Yeah.
And you kind of jumped the gun on me here. So you found a couple of cabins, and is that how you started?
No, actually, that's funny because we were in law enforcement. I was actually testing for becoming a federal agent. I was going into the FBI, and I have this new boyfriend, and he was like, hey, we both worked undercover. Let's leave and go out of town for a weekend. It was New Year's. We're going to rent a cabin in the woods and, just hang out and do outdoor hike and do those things. And I was kind of a city girl. So I was like, oh, but he brought me to what is now one of my rentals. So he brought me here for New Year's Eve as a couple. It was our getaway where, nobody knew us and we could just relax and enjoy being outside and hiking and doing that stuff. And it was in that experience that we sat around on the porch going, I think we could do this. We could do this. So we started looking at real estate and being, relatively close to retirement for him. He was like, well, we could get a piece of property and then, in 5 years build it. And so the conversation started, and then we got in the car, drove 750 miles back home, and all we did was talk about how we were going to find our way to get up here. And in the beginning, we became very friendly with the owners at the time. They were a husband and wife couple also. And in conversation, we asked her, hey, where's this city? It's called Ilke. And she said, well, why? And I said, well, there's property over there, and they have actually like 2 little rentals on there. And we thought we could do some income producing and, offset some of those expenses. And she was like, everything is for sale. If you want, we can talk. And I think at the time she had no expectation that we would ever, because so many people come up here and they're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do this in my retirement. So she probably had, just like I do now, tons of people on the regular telling me I want to do that. But then we went home. That was New Year's. We went home, talked about it, talked to her. From beginning to end, July 1st, we retired from our jobs. We closed on the deal. We packed all of our stuff, said goodbye to our friends and family, and moved with our U-Haul to Blairsville in 6 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you made up your mind. You had plenty of conversations about it.
Yeah.
That flame was very stoked at that point, I would imagine.
Yeah. It was, we were on fire. We were ready to go, and we were going to make it happen any way we found. I think it's never the resources that stop people from doing stuff. It's the resourcefulness. Because when I look at that, we had a huge amount of money that was for our down payment was going to come from the house that we lived in. And at the very last minute, that house underappraised, and a buyer from New York, it was finagling. Needless to say, we were a good chunk of change short. And we were like, oh, now what? What are we going to do? And we found a way. We, we became very resourceful to make
and that's what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So describe what you purchased then at the very beginning.
In the beginning, we bought 8.5 acres and 8 one-bedroom cabin rentals.
Okay. So describe what you have today.
Today, we have 14 vacation rentals ranging from 1 to 4 bedroom. We have a farm winery with vineyards, a winery production organization where we make our own wines. We have a full service European spa. We have a bistro restaurant where we cater events, so we're an event venue. And we have a satellite tasting room also in Blue Ridge. So we've grown considerably, both in acreage and just in amenities and businesses for our guests.
How many total acres do you have now?
About 40.
Okay, so you went from 8 to 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in pieces.
Well, and so how long did it take you?
23 years.
Okay,
I'm still growing.
So this didn't happen overnight?
No, not even close. And it happened not very linear either. My growth was not this way, which is how we all think it's going to be, is from point A to point B. It was up and down and up and way down and up and down to where I am now. So.
Okay, so you experienced the roller coaster.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and the reason I'm asking this is I talk to a lot of people who are looking to buy a business. And when I start asking questions, they all expect the business to skyrocket and it's going to be extremely successful and it's going to be an overnight success. It took you 23 years to build your resort to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Was it easy?
No, God, no. Not even close to easy. And oh God, no. And there were many times along the way that I was like, why do we do this? And why? And daydreamed and fantasized about working a 9 to 5 where I could punch my card. And I had the confidence that on Friday there was going to be a check in my account. But I'd be a horrible employee because as soon as somebody said your lunch hour's up, I'd be like, what? Like, no way. But I couldn't I obviously, from my background, my other careers I have had, I'm not happy not growing. Like, it's part of being an entrepreneur. Like, I think that word is used a lot now. Like, they even have degrees for entrepreneurship, which blows my mind. But an entrepreneur it's a way you are. Like, you can't but think of ideas on how to improve something or create something or build. It's like a creator trait in you that you can try and subdue that, but it won't work well. And there's another part of that too. There's a lot of business owners that are not that way, which is fine. Also, there's not, I think, a negative in that. You can run a business, be a business owner, and just you're making your own job, pretty much. So I think there's a version of that's for a lot of people too. My local donut shop, Brandon, there, he's like that. He inherited it. He's got his job. He works hard and he puts everything into it, but he doesn't have the creator part. That to me is the entrepreneur part of it. So yeah.
If you had to take a look back, so it's been 23 years. Talk about, let's keep it, I'm going to say simple, but I know it's not. 3 successes that you've had that allowed you to propel this business forward.
Separating your identity from your business. Who you are is not what you do. So when you have failures, that weight isn't on you as a person. It doesn't erode your sense of worth and confidence. And it's just how business goes. And that's hard because you put everything into it, not just all your money, but all your hopes and dreams. But that was huge. Getting help I probably waited always too long to get help with tasks, to delegate things, because I'm capable and I can, but because I can, it doesn't mean I should. And so really getting clear on what is my time worth as a CEO of this company. What is my time worth? And is my time and talent better spent doing like frontline operations or big picture, marketing, or where is that? And it's a fluid process. So that's 2. And then the third, I probably would say, gosh, I don't know if I learned that from here. Yeah, that's hard. I mean, I just think you have to constantly educate yourself. Like, there's always something to learn. And so, I felt like that beforehand, but running a business, you really have to be clear that it's ongoing education. Everything is changing and you should know. I shouldn't be doing my own accounting, but I should know what they're supposed to be doing. I should have financial optics, operational optics. I should know what HR does and who they're getting. So educating yourself. And I didn't know a lot of those things. So I had to go to school and go online. And now that information is so readily available. You have to get it. You have to go and get it from people who have done it too. Because there's a lot of people, and I've talked to you about this before, a lot of people out there peddling their thing or their service or product, but they've never created it. And so, right. Yeah, finding those people who have done it, who walk that walk, who have created that in their past and have an insight to it. And those are the ones you look for. That's what I look for in anything, in business and fitness and whatever. So.
Okay. So I want to touch on number 2 real quick, because I find most business owners struggle with this part. And that is learning to delegate and asking for help. And I love that you put that as a success, because I mean, I've been an entrepreneur as well. And that was always my struggle, is I wanted to do everything because I believe nobody else could do it better than me. Right. That was my mentality.
Yeah.
And when I learned how to actually delegate things that, one, I didn't like to do, and two, things that I was not very good at, because we can't be good at everything.
No.
That's when, same as you, I found greater success within my business. So I love that you brought that up. I think that's key.
It is. It is. And if you ask my kids, they'll tell you that I have no problem delegating stuff. Or my husband, he'll be like, she can delegate anything, no problem. But it's the task, like you said, that you think, I'm the only one who's capable of doing this. And in some cases, you might be the only one at 100%, but it's okay to hire someone else who may do it at 80%, because that will relieve you of the time that you need then to work more big picture stuff and fall into the role that you need to be in, because you can't do all things all the time. It's just not possible.
So I would, and I don't want to speak for you, when you started to learn how to delegate and ask for help, is that when you started to experience more growth, which allowed you to do the winery? I mean, I'm very familiar with wineries and what it takes to, number one, just to have the vineyard is, I mean, that's a business all in itself. And then you add your production to it and bottling. That's a whole separate business unit for most people. There are people that do that for a living, just that. And then you went the third step, and now you have a tasting room. So now you're actually delivering your product to the public. So you're doing retail. There's no way you can do all this without delegating and asking for help.
Yeah. By the time we opened, or by the time we had the vision to open, to do the winery, the vineyards and the winery, and add that to our resort, we had already learned a few big lessons in business growth, because we had already been in business for 10 years, just as a cabin rental and group retreat. And one of the things is grow as the demand requests it. So there are a lot of people who will start a vineyard or buy one existing and buy the biggest and the shiniest and the most, and the, I think it's like Robert Mondavi who says, how do you make $1 million in the wine business? You spend $1.5 million to build it. So, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And I have seen that, because we're very plugged into the industry in our region as a whole that has a lot of these mom and pop wineries coming up, that we didn't do that at all. We started really small. We had 3 wines. We did it out of a 20 by 40 building. We had like 4 tanks. We had a manual Italian corker, a manual label, like literally labeling the bottles. I mean, it was handcrafted, to the T. We touched that bottle probably 17 to 20 times before it went out to the customer. We did that all. And then as we got more and more, we grew, then we bought the automatic bottler, the automatic labeler, the automatic. And then it was, one of the biggest blessings in that process is that I'm married to a person that isn't run by fear of failure. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to grow grapes. We're going to do this. Like, I've grown foliage and like bushes and stuff, but never mind. So he educated himself. He went to school, plugged into consulting people to other winery owners and been like, hey, I'll be free labor, any way to gain knowledge. And we started with one little plot, and then the following year did another, until the threshold reached a point. And then we hired our vineyard manager, who came with 10 years experience. And now we're seeing, because that takes time, the fruits of that labor, literally. The crops with somebody who's, like you said, just dedicated to that only, it exploded. But it's based on the demand. Like, we didn't out the chute, do thousands of cases of wine. We just made it, sold it, made it, sold it. Real simple.
Yeah. And grew it from there.
Yep.
Supply and demand.
Yep. That's it.
Awesome.
That's it.
So we talked about 3 successes. And I know business owners don't like to talk about this part. Let's talk about 3 areas where you may have struggled, or I hate to say failed, but learned from a mistake.
Yeah, I failed many times. Lots of it, but we all are going to fail. Like, that's not a maybe you will. If you're in business, you will fail at stuff. The way you handle your failure, that defines the people who pack up their stuff and go home or grow and succeed. And I look at failures as my opportunity to learn. Like, I call it failing forward. Like, you've got to lean into that and be like, "Ooh, I did really bad." And one of the number one places is in financial optics, in money. It's not a car or or your savings account, or I had pretty good financial intelligence, but not as a business owner. And so in the beginning I struggled, and there wasn't a lot of resources at the time for me to find some guidance in the financial part of that. And I got some bad advice multiple times that were the foundation of what I made my decisions on. And so that hurt. That hurt.
Okay. That's number 1. What's another one?
Another failure. I think financial is the big one, because not paying myself in the beginning was huge. It's not just the actual paycheck, but it's the recognition of you as being part of this entity, separate from yourself. When I mentioned before, making yourself separate from your business. So, if it doesn't do well, if you're in a business that doesn't make financial sense, you shouldn't keep going. And to stop that's really hard. Even for me, many times I was like, do I keep going? Do I not? Do I keep going? Do I not?
So you learned from trying to do it all, being 100% available, to be able to separate that and keep some personal time for yourself.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's what you learned from that.
Yeah. I had physical. It wasn't even that I had like this great epiphany in one of my Zen meditations. It was like somebody hit me with a frying pan. I had health issues come up, and I had to go through, it was heart palpitations, all kinds of stuff. And I was like, what is happening? And I'm very healthy and strong. And I thought, oh, what is this? And in the process of going through, the medical system, it was like, it's just stress. Believe it or not, it is just stress. And
let's talk about something specific, like marketing. Did you know marketing? Did you make any mistakes in marketing when you first started out?
Mistakes in the execution of some of it, probably, yeah, for sure. But it's a moving target. Like, my demographic, it's really getting clear, I think. So I'll back that up and say I do have a creative part of me. So as a previous artist, performing arts and visual arts, and so I get a little bit of that. So that was like, it makes me happy to get on and do marketing and advertising, and I really enjoy that part of it. But in the process, I had to get really clear of who I am and who I speak to. instead of trying to speak to everybody. In the beginning, you're just like, oh, please, God, bring me somebody, anybody.
Right.
I don't care what they look like. And then after a while, you realize I can't make everybody happy. I speak to really these people. This is who I need to do. And then reverse engineer what that looks like. Who is that person and their age? Just really come up with your customer avatar and then speak to them and help bring them to the place they want. So like for me, we speak to people who are looking for a place to escape to unplug from their life, from their stress, from whatever issues or challenges they're dealing with, and just change the scenery, change the stimulus, and relax. And we just added more amenities or tools for them to do that. But when I got clear on who I speak to, that changed it big. And then it always comes back to the money. You got to spend the money, right? You got to pay to play.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another area you scale up. You talked about hiring a marketing manager. That's not something you have to do right out of the box. You can scale up to it.
Yeah.
You start out small, you grow your business, as you earn more, you spend more toward that one bucket.
And
All
investing
the
in
buckets.
yourself. Yeah, investing in yourself. Like one thing that Bob and I have done all throughout the years is we invested in ourselves. I think 2021, we went to the Tony Robbins Business Mastery 5-day full intensive. I mean, it was $10,000, and most people would be like, "What? You spend 10 grand on a class?" And I'm like, yes, because I know that I invest that money, I'm going to learn and get insight on what I need to do to scale to my next level that will bring me at a minimum 3 times that within the first year.
Okay. So we're at the 38-minute mark. And normally we try to keep these right around 30 minutes. So we are going to tie this off a little bit. What advice would you give to people looking to get into business ownership? A quick 30-second, what is the best advice you could give somebody?
Make sure that your flame is burning high. Like, you've got to know it's hard work, lots of struggle, lots of challenges, lots of ups and downs. But if it's really what you want, that flame is burning high, the benefits of that are better than anything. To me, the freedom to build your own future, to have control over what that looks like, your life looks like, is worth every struggle, challenge. Every afternoon I cried on my keyboard because I didn't have enough money or enough people, or it's so worth it. And so understand that today we have this society that posts, and we have it's not a negative, but we have these platforms that show you all the shiny things, the successful businesses, the quick fix, the plane, the car, the lifestyle. But for the people, the LeBrons, all the high achieving, but not all that it took to get there. And so really understanding it takes being a different person, showing up in a different way to reach those levels of success.
Okay. So hard work, dedication, and time.
Grit.
And grit. Definitely grit.
Grit. You need a lot of grit.
Ilke, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. If people have questions or would like to visit you at the resort, how can they do that?
Well, you can go on our website, which is paradisehillsga for Georgia.com. And all of our information's on there, and our toll-free number if you want to call, if you want to get away from life for a couple days and enjoy the mountains, especially now that spring's going to be right around the corner. It's just, spring is my favorite time up here because we're busting out of some of the cold stuff. So
thank you very much. Thank you everybody for listening. You've been listening to the Business Advocate podcast. If you would like to see what we actually look like, you can find us on YouTube under the Business Advocate podcast. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Russell Carrier, and stay tuned to our next episode. Please hit the like button and subscribe, all those things that you're supposed to do. So thank you again. Have a great day, everyone.